Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm in any given week, we always have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to begin by welcoming our viewers who are joining us on television from West Coast Berbice, Region number 5. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our viewers who are joining us again on television, but this time in Region number 6, along the east bank of the Berbice River, New Amsterdam, Kanji, and along the Quarantine Coast, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners and viewers who are joining us on Freedom Radio from 41 Robb Street, Georgetown. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to all of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and even further afield. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And please press that share button, on your phone, on your computer, on your iPad, or whatever device that you're using, so that as many persons as possible join us in tonight's discussion. And please use the column section to put your views, put your questions, offer your suggestions on any given issue so that we can have an interactive session as possible. I want to just say good evening to a couple of you, Rudy, Jaigobin, Clifton, Singroy, Chintamani, Mangal, Rajin, Datadin, Janet Singh, Gamal Mohammed, Esther Davis, Frank Badrinarayan, Howard Samaru, Pam Singh. Welcome all of you to another program of Issues in the News. And I've already seen a very important comment, and let me start out by announcing that today His Excellency President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali swore in the remaining persons to constitute the Constitutional Reform Commission. You will recall that some weeks ago, a number of persons were sworn in, but these three persons were not in the country at the time. Today, President Ali completed the task of swearing in the three outstanding members of the commission. And those persons are Senior Counsel Timothy Jonas, who represents the smaller parties in the parliament, Mr. Kioma Griffith, who represents the Christian organizations of Guyana, and Mr. Kamal Ramkaran, who is a nominee of the legal profession of Guyana. So those are the three outstanding members of the Constitutional Reform Commission who were sworn in this afternoon. Also sworn in this afternoon are two members of the Law Reform Commission. These two members replace other persons who were there and who resigned. And the two persons are Mr. Everton Lamy, who is a nominee of the Guyana Bar Association, and Ms. Correa, who is a nominee of the Private Sector Commission. So those two nominees, having been sworn in, they now fully complement the Law Reform Commission and the three who were sworn in relation to the Constitutional Reform Commission, they also fully complement that commission. So hopefully the Constitutional Reform Commission can now begin its important task as laid out in its enabling legislation, that is the Constitutional Reform Commission Act. The commission is to regulate its own affairs and business, so it will fix its own meetings and will determine how it will discharge the statutory mandate that is conferred upon it by the provisions of the Constitutional Reform Commission Act. So I'm happy to make those announcements, and I continue to look at your comments so that I can continue to respond to them. Yesterday, the Ministry of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Chambers, though it was a holiday, we work every day of the week, irrespective of whether it's a holiday or not. Yesterday, we sent out the draft amendments to the Sexual Offences Act of 2010. You will recall that from the time we came into government, we made an announcement that the Sexual Offences Act will be reviewed and will be updated. That is a crucial piece of legislation, very modern, very embracing, and it addresses the very vexed question of sexual abuse in Guyana. We enacted that legislation in 2010, and we are conducting a review of it 14 years after. A consultant has been retained, and the consultant is working with the government of Guyana through the agency of the Ministry of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Chambers. I hope that the consultation which we are now engaged in will yield many proposals, will yield many proposed amendments, will yield many recommendations which we can consider for implementation. It would be recalled that this bill, the principal act rather, underwent tremendous consultations before it was enacted. It also spent a long period of time in a special select committee where it was scrutinized by that committee, and I believe we invited members of the public. I believe that the principal act has served Guyana well over the past 14 years, and it is due for review. Some persons who read the press statement that was sent out with the bill attached or with the link to which the bill, which can be used to access the bill, some persons who read that somehow got the impression that this is a process that is being driven by the IDB. I want to clarify that this is a purely Government of Guyana initiative. The IDB is simply funding it as part of a loan program for Guyana, as it is doing in relation to several pieces of legislation and initiative under the Support for Criminal Justice project being administered under the supervision of the Ministry of Legal Affairs. So this is not in any form or fashion an IDB initiative. It is a government of Guyana's initiative. It is us who determine the terms of reference and the terms of the review. It is us who made the decision to review. The only role that the IDB is playing in this process is that they are paying the consultant for the work that the consultant is doing for the government of Guyana. I thought that I would clarify that because there is some misapprehension out there which has been drawn to my attention. I want to take this opportunity to invite members of the public, to invite important stakeholder organizations to ensure that they read the proposed amendments and that they make a constructive contribution. I also want to invite members of the opposition to access the bill. It is publicly available, and to also make whatever recommendations, proposals, or amendments that they wish to make. Please don't read the bill on the night before it is being debated in the House and then come with some half-baked proposals, because that has been the record of the opposition. They don't read these bills. They read them either the morning before they come to the Parliament or the night before. And they wanted to go to a select committee. Speaker after speaker in the House on the opposition benches echo that call. I am putting it on the public record now that we are inviting them to make their contributions and make their proposals, and it will be taken on board by the consultant. The bill is far from its final draft. The whole purpose of the consultation is to assimilate and accumulate the widest possible views on a matter of national importance, and the consultant will review them and bring them to our attention, the government's attention, and we will determine together what we will incorporate into the bill before the final draft is eventually presented. I invite members of the legal profession, the Guyana Bar Association, the Berbice Bar, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Guyana Police Force, all the organizations representing women and children. This is the time to make a contribution. There is a view out there that the Principal Act is harsh, that it is oppressive, that it tends to be biased in a particular direction. Well, this is the opportunity for those who hold that view to put forward proposals and amendments so that adjustments to the Principal Act can be made. This is the opportunity, and that is why consultation is so important. And our government has made consultation an integral part of governance, including the lawmaking process of the country. So please take advantage of the opportunity that is being extended. I want to thank the press for the wide coverage that we have received based upon that press release and the draft bill. I want to encourage the press to continue to put this matter in the public domain so that members of the public and our important stakeholder organizations can make the contributions which we are asking to be made. Um, you will recall that Christopher Jones instituted proceedings against Sarah Brown and Vikash Ramkisoon a few years ago in the High Court, challenging their appointment and their eligibility to sit in the National Assembly as non-voting members in their capacity as parliamentary secretaries. The High Court ruled against the government. We appealed to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal ruled against the government, and the matter is now at the Caribbean Court of Justice. Today, the Attorney General filed submissions, and the matter is fixed for the 30th of July for the presentation of those submissions. So let us see how the Caribbean Court of Justice will rule. I have spoken at length of a distinct pattern that in certain types of cases, the Court of Appeal rules against the government and the Caribbean Court of Justice reverses the Court of Appeal. And that has been a consistent pattern in these types of cases. Let us see if I am right again, or if I am proven wrong. Only time will tell. We have about 2 months before we will be able to answer that question, and I'll remind you of what I said tonight. So let me see what views you have. Well, I'm looking at your comments, and I am looking for the questions that you would like me to address or issues that you would like me to raise, but I am not seeing anything from you, but I continue to encourage you. And please press that share button on your phone, press that share button on your computer, press that share button on your iPad or whatever device you're using, so that you and your friends and persons on your account and on your wall and on your page can participate in tonight's discussion. Tomorrow, we will be commissioning a brand new building in Essequibo at Suddy, and that building will house an office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and living quarters for the Director of Public Prosecutions. So we are taking this transformation across the country. The Director of Public Prosecutions never had an office on the Essequibo coast, never had permanent, exclusive living quarters on the Essequibo coast. Under the Support for Criminal Justice in Guyana, funded by the IDB, and in collaboration with the government of Guyana, we have constructed an office and living quarters for the officers of the Director of Public Prosecutions, so that when they are in Essequibo prosecuting cases, they have an office and they have living quarters. Remember, Essequibo has a high court where they do jury trials. And whenever lawyers from the DPP have to go to Essequibo, they had to stay either in hotels or rent premises. And they had no office to really prepare their cases. Now when they go, there is office facilities, and there would be adequate and comfortable living facilities where they can stay during their stint on the Essequibo coast. Tomorrow, we are traveling up to Essequibo, myself, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and some other officials to declare open those facilities. I want to spend some time, but I will deal with that later. Next week, Tuesday, we will not have any program of issues in the news, and that is because I am leading Guyana's delegation to the 58th plenary and working group meetings of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, which will take place in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, from the 2nd of June, that's Sunday coming, to the 7th of June, that would be the following Friday. At this meeting, the plenary will discuss and examine the Mutual Evaluation Report of Guyana. This report is of critical importance as it illustrates the country's regime and measures to prevent and combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. It will be recalled that last year, a team of assessors from CFATF spent a week in Guyana to carry out an on-site assessment of Guyana's AML-CFT structure for the purpose of this mutual evaluation process. A draft report was prepared in which Guyana was allowed an opportunity to offer recommendations and make proposed changes. This process was completed, which has resulted in the preparation by CFATF of the final mutual evaluation report. It is this report that will be considered and examined at the plenary and will conclude in a mutual evaluation process, and will conclude, the mutual evaluation process of Guyana. I will be leading Guyana's delegation, and it will include representatives from various state agencies in Guyana's AML-CFT architecture, including the Financial Intelligence Unit, the Bank of Guyana, the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Special Organized Crime Unit, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Gaming Authority, Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, the Guyana Gold Board, Guyana Securities Council, and the Treaty Office of the Ministry of Home Affairs. So quite a big delegation that Guyana will be sending to Trinidad to ensure that we participate fully and we come out of this exercise with flying colors. So that is where we will be during the course of next week, from the 2nd of June to the 7th of June. So we will not have a program of issues in the news for that period. So I wanted to spend some time on the land acquisition at Peters Hall. This is in relation to the lands that government of Guyana is acquiring under the Compulsory Acquisition for Public Purposes Act for the purpose of the construction of a new Demerara River Bridge. Most of you, if not all of you, should be aware that in order to complete this project of national importance and of a transformational nature, the government was required to compulsorily acquire a number of private properties. And the government commenced that process since 2022. So since the year 2022, we began the public consultations with the residents whose properties it was determined the government will have to acquire. So from October 2022, we have had several public engagements, and I have them listed here. And why I'm going through this is because I continue to hear allegations that the government is acquiring these properties but is not consulting. That is simply an untruth. The consultative process began since October 2022. We had public consultations in January 2023, in February 2023, in March 2023, in September 2023, again in September 2023, in October 2023, in February 2023, in April 2024. So let me read this again. Sorry, I have all the dates here. October 2022, we met. We met again with the residents on January 2023. In February 2023, we met again with the residents. In March 2023, we met with the residents. In September 2023, we met with the residents. We met with them twice in September 2023. Then in February 2024, we met with the residents. And in April 2024, we met with the residents. So that is a series of engagements that we have had. And the government delegation included the Attorney General and several officers from the Attorney General chambers, the Minister of Housing, the Honorable Colin Crowell, and several staff members of the Ministry of Housing, and the Chief Executive Officer of Central Housing and Planning Authority, and also the Minister of Public Works, Bishop Edghill, and staff from the Ministry of Public Works attended some of these engagements. So we had a number of engagements. Most of the engagements were held in a part of the Prince's Hotel, not far from where the construction site is, so that we wanted to be at a convenient location so that the residents can come and meet with us. The engagements were in person, and persons who were overseas, they joined the engagements by Zoom. The engagements were very public. The press attended some of them. They were all well attended. And the engagements, as I said, those who couldn't be present in Guyana, they were heard on Zoom. Each of these residents was advised, if they wish, to retain a lawyer of their choice to represent their interest in respect of this entire transaction. In addition, the government hired a team of 4 lawyers to deal with the government portion of the transactions. These lawyers would have appeared for the people if they wish, the residents, free of cost, or the residents were free to retain their own lawyers, because that is their right. The government recognized that right. So you had 4 or 5 lawyers, I think, 5 lawyers were hired by the government to execute these transactions one by one with these residents. Let me report to you that not a single resident objected to the acquisition except one, as far as I am aware. One. None of the residents objected to the acquisition process. Naturally, we had disagreements with the quantum of compensation to be paid. And that is why we had so many meetings. The persons whose private properties were acquired and are being acquired, each was offered land or house and land and monetary compensation and compensation attached to their moving. So you had each person was offered either land or, if they want, house and land. Most of them were offered house and land because they wanted house and land. Some of them wanted to build their own house, so they were offered land. And in addition to land or house and land, they were also offered monetary compensation. Government valuation department was engaged, and we obtained certificates of valuation from that department. Then in addition to that, the government retained the services of a private valuation officer and obtained valuation certificates from that private valuation officer as well. So you had two valuation certificates that the government guided itself by in the engagements with the private citizens. Why? Because we wanted to ensure that the persons receive market value for their property, because that is what the law says they are entitled to. So we didn't impose arbitrarily market value. We used the government valuation department, and we use also the valuation certificates from a private valuation officer. We sat with every single person and negotiated an acceptable compensation package with each of these persons or their legal representatives. And that is why the process lasted from October 2022 all the way to 2024. Some of these persons do not own the property. Some of them are squatters. Some of them, the property is owned by a relative. So you have various legal situations that you have to deal with. Some of them, the property owned by the parents, but they never applied for letters of administration for the estate of the deceased parent. So you had various scenarios that you got to work through. But we patiently worked through each one. Now there are some that we were unable to arrive at a settlement with. But that is okay. The law contemplates that. And in those situations, the law provides that the government should go to the High Court and let the High Court determine the compensation. And in those matters where we were unable to reach an amicable compensation package, the government has gone to the High Court in the name of the Attorney General for the court to determine what is market value in accordance with law for the purpose of compensation. I saw a particular elderly woman on Facebook, on television, making some wild and baseless allegations. I personally engaged this person. Her name is Vashti Fredericks. I personally engaged Miss Fredericks on several occasions at several of these meetings. The lawyers whom we retained engaged Miss Fredericks. First of all, Miss Fredericks does not own the property. That's the first thing. The property is still in the name of Miss Fredericks' parents, mother, I think. She doesn't have letters of administration for the property. She doesn't have a will. At least she's not showing it. She's not cooperating at all with the process. But she goes on Mark Benchcup television show, she goes on different radio programs, and she goes on different television news outfit to say that the government is discriminating, as usual. The government is not consulting. The government is paying one set of people and not paying another set of people. Absolute nonsense. And I say so with the greatest of respect. It's an elderly woman, and I would not disrespect our senior citizens. But this woman is making wild, reckless, and baseless allegations. She is completely uncooperative. As a result, her matter is in the court as well. It is not the objective of the government to fight people. The government has a power in law, and the government is exercising that power. Right now, those properties are owned by the government by an order published under the Compulsory Acquisition for Public Purposes Act. So all of those persons who are living there and who are refusing to move because the government is not offering them the package that they want, they are now living there illegally. It may appear unfair, but that is what the law says. And the law says that what they are entitled to is market value. Now, if we use the government valuation and we use a private valuation and we give you government land at the price that government is selling those lands, so $5 million or $2.5 million for a house lot, that's what we're giving them at. Not 40 million, which the government can bargain for because it's a free market. It's not only your property get value, the government's property get value too. So I just wanted to have a frank discussion tonight, so to put what the facts are out there, because persons are going around and spreading falsehood and misinformation. And I hate to say that Ms. Vashti Fredericks is one of them. The government should not even be dealing with her. She doesn't have a title for the property. What we should be doing is deposit the money in the High Court. That is what the law allows. But we have been trying to engage, and all we have been met with is abuse and allegations of racism. Allegations of racism. The normal thing. The same thing that we had to go through at Mocha. But that was a different situation. Those were squatters. At least these people here own the property except Miss Fredericks, who making the most noise, and she doesn't own the property. She's going on all the television stations, but she has never shown them what title she has to the property. And none of the reporters and all the persons who are advising her, rather than advise her to go and get her house in order, get her papers in order, they are entertaining her and giving her a forum to spew the baseless allegations. That's what they're doing. Because they want to sensationalize the story. You think they really want to help the lady? If they want to help the lady, they will tell the lady, look, miss, go and get a lawyer and fix up your business, fix up your papers, so the government will be able to pay you compensation. Right now we can't pay her, even if she agrees to accept, because she is not the title holder. But none of the people who are advising her telling her that. They are encouraging her, putting a mic in front of her, because they want the government to be put in a bad light, and they have a new story, or they have something to speak about. And that is how they abuse people in this country. And they purport to represent the very people. They purport to represent Afro-Guyanese. And that is how they use and manipulate them. Rather than advise this old lady to get a lawyer and fix up your papers, because the bridge is going to be built. The house will have to be moved. That is the law. So why procrastinate? Why delay? Why don't you go and get your papers fixed at least, and then come to the negotiation table? Let us assume that you reject what the government is offering. There's not even a counter offer. It is a non-engagement, because she's not prepared to cooperate at all. And it is unfortunate. It is really unfortunate. And persons are simply exploiting this situation. Anyway, we have to move on. I am still looking at your comments. I'm still looking at your the comment section here to see what questions you would like me to address. Please remember to press that share button on the phone, press that share button on the computer, so that we can continue to discuss the important, so that we can continue to share the program. Sorry, I lost my trend of thought there for a moment. So I want to take this opportunity to extend my congratulations to the 1,600 students who have graduated from the Guyana Online Academy of Learning, the Gold Scholarship Program, at its second graduation ceremony held on Friday last at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. So 1,600 students we have graduated under the Gold Scholarship Program. 1,600. I am told that over 75% are females who are not working and were able to study from the comfort of their homes. Today, they now have a university degree that is recognized. 75% women. Now that, my friends, is what empowerment is. Empowerment is 1,600 students. And this is the second graduation that we are holding. So, congratulations to all the graduates, and I want to encourage more and more Guyanese to join the Gold Scholarship Program. It is free, and it is singular in its kind, at least in this hemisphere. I know of no similar scholarship program offered by any government certainly not in the Caribbean, of this magnitude, where you can attend universities from about 20 different countries across the globe, and you can do so at your own convenience and at no cost. The government bears all the cost. So I want to address an issue that I made a post on about an hour before this program commenced. So there is a gentleman whose name is Kidaki from Buxton. You know, I am from Annandale, so Kidaki knows me well. I am told that I am a regular, I feature regularly in his commentary because I grew up a few houses from Buxton in Annandale. So Kidaki apparently knows me well, and I think I know him too. I don't pay much attention to him. I can remember him. So Kidaki has a program in which he encourages people to call in. Now, when you have a program and you encourage call in, you encourage listeners and viewers to call in, and you give them a platform, you are responsible equally with them for what they say once you offer them that platform. Because had it not been for your platform, they would not have been able to say what they are saying. You are giving them that platform. Now, it is not expected that you will be able to predict what the person is likely to say or may say. But from the moment you hear that the person is saying something that you know as an ordinary, reasonable, sensible human being, something that the person should not be saying, something that can put you in problem, something that can make you an accomplice or an accessory to a crime, you have a duty to shut that caller down. That is your responsibility in law. You don't have, if you entertain that caller, you are participating in the criminal conduct. And don't tell me that you don't know, because ignorance of the law is never a defense. So if you don't know, well, too bad, you will learn when you go in jail. Because if everyone is to go to a court and say, well, I didn't know the law, well, then we might as well shut down the whole criminal justice system. Because you're not supposed to be trained in law, but you have common sense. At least, if you're going to talk publicly, you ought to have common sense. And if you're going to take the grave responsibility of allowing people to speak on a public program that you are facilitating or hosting on a social media platform or a television platform, then you must be taken to bear the responsibility to ensure that they do not publish they do not make criminal publications, they do not commit criminal offenses when they speak. So a few weeks ago, a man calls in to Kedaki's program and said that he wants Bharat Jagdev's head, my head, the president's head, and Ashley Singh's head cut off and put on the seawall so that people can drive and see. And he's calling on somebody to do that, or he will do it, or something like that. Now, by any stretch of the imagination, by any standard, that is a criminal offense. You are calling for murder. And Kidaki sits there and listens to that and doesn't find it objectionable. Doesn't find that objectionable. Now you're talking about the vice president of a country, the president of a country, the attorney general of a country, and the minister of finance of the country. And you will note that all four are of one ethnicity. So this thing has several layers. And the context in which the man is speaking is one filled with racism. So this man is speaking about ethnic murder. Murder, but ethnic murder, ethnic cleansing, genocide. And Kidaki does nothing about it. Well, he is in police custody apparently, assisting with the investigation. That's the Kidaki person. And you know, when all of you, well, most of you may have had engagements with the Guyana police force, and you may have seen how they write statements. They always use Negro to describe Afro-Guyanese, male East Indian to describe Indo-Guyanese, male Amerindian or Amerindian male to describe indigenous Guyanese. Suddenly, this lawyer who Kidaki retains, this is a lawyer of 30, 40 years standing. He's going to the police station for 40 years now. He never had an objection to the word Negro. I've never heard him object to the use of the word Negro before. And that would have been on tens of thousands of police statements that he would have seen. Tens of thousands of police statements that lawyer would have seen. Because he's largely a criminal lawyer. Never objected. Because I think Congressman Jackson is here, Jonathan Jackson, who is a member of the Congressional Black Caucus of the U.S. This lawyer now finds the use of the term Negro by the Guyana police force as objectionable. The Guyana police force was formed 180 years ago. 180 years they're using that term. This lawyer never found it objectionable. But because he wants to pitch to the congressman here, he finds that objectionable. He doesn't find objectionable the content of the video. He doesn't find objectionable that a caller on the video is asking for 4 leaders of this government head to be cut off, 4 Guyanese citizens to be beheaded. Forget what portfolio we hold. He doesn't have a problem with that. He doesn't have a problem with 4 East Indians being beheaded. He doesn't have a problem with that. He has a problem with the police using the term Negro to describe Kidaki. That's his problem. And these are the people who would go all the way to the United Nations to speak about racism and race relations. He went to the United Nations to speak about racism and race relations. And here it is, the president of the country, the vice president of the country, the attorney general, and the minister of finance, a man is calling for them to be decapitated and for their heads to be hung on the seawall, but he doesn't have a problem with that. He has a problem with his client being described as a Negro. You see how sick these people are? And he's pitching to the Black Caucus leader who is here in Guyana. That is why he suddenly found the thing objectionable. Because as I said, he would have read thousands of statements like that. And I've never heard a public objection. But he wants to stir the racial and ethnic pot. That's what they do every day. Shamelessly. Shamelessly. And this, you would think better of people of his caliber. He's educated, appears to be sophisticated, or at least he conveys that impression. You would not expect the descent to which you're witnessing. But we have in Guyana a duty to fight this racism every single day, to forge national unity in our country every single day. They want to blame race for every problem that they have in life. It is because of race. They don't look at their own personal performance. They don't look at the type of political leadership that they subscribe to. They don't like to look at the political leaders that they have. They don't want to look at their own personal life or their personal environment in which they operate. No. Racism is a very good excuse for whatever plight they find themselves in. It is because of race that they are there. And if you're from a different race, well, you caused that to happen. And of course, there's a political content to it as well. So they're exploiting that political dimension. Because, as I said, and I've repeatedly said, they can't look politically in their direction for performance. They can't look in their direction politically for track record. In fact, their track record is one of dishonesty and fraud, of rigging elections, of authoritarianism, of political dictatorship. That's the problem that they face. So the race card is the only card that they have. But more and more it is losing its potency with them, because Guyanese are becoming more and more educated. 1600. You see, we don't do ethnic breakdown, and we may have to start to do it when you're dealing with a racist that we are dealing with. You should hear the ethnic makeup of the 1600. I will ask that information be made public. And then you will see more and more of our people are becoming empowered, they are becoming educated, and these who strive on ignorance, who sustain who get their sustenance from preying on the ignorance of people, once that ignorance diminishes, the reservoir from which they're pulling is getting smaller and smaller. And that is why we have to continue to educate our people and to expose these miscreants whenever they show their faces and their hands. I want to thank you very much for spending the past hour or so with me. I think that we have dealt with a lot of issues, and please enjoy the rest of the evening. And until I see you again, remember next week we are not going to be here. I'll see you the following week. Take care, enjoy, and be safe. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.